Imagine lying in a hospital bed, weak, scared, tubes in your arm, machines beeping around you. You look toward the door every time it opens, hoping, praying it's family, hoping that maybe your mother, your father, your siblings, anyone who claims to love you will walk through and sit by your side. But the days stretch on, the nights get longer, and no one comes, not once. I know, because that was me. I spent weeks alone in a sterile hospital room, recovering from something that nearly killed me. I expected my family to show up, to hold my hand, to check on me, to simply prove that I mattered. But instead, they stayed silent. Not a call, not a card, not a single visit. And when I finally got back on my feet, when I rebuilt my life from the ground up, those same people who abandoned me suddenly came knocking, not with love, not with apologies, but with open hands, begging me for money. And that's when I realized something powerful. The family that left me to suffer in silence had no place in the life I built without them. My name's Emily, and if you were to look at my family from the outside, you'd think we were perfect. We looked like the kind of family you'd see in holiday cards, matching sweaters, polished smiles, dinner tables full of food. But if you scratched beneath the surface, the cracks showed fast. From the very beginning, I was the extra child, the afterthought. My older brother, Daniel, was the golden boy. He could do no wrong. Straight A's? He got a new bike. Scored 1 goal in soccer? They threw him a party. Even when he messed up, my parents framed it as a lesson, or boys will be boys. Me? I was the quiet one, the one who got told to stop making a fuss, or be grateful you even have a roof over your head. My wins were invisible. My struggles were seen as weaknesses. And the older I got, the clearer it became that my role in the family was not daughter or sister, it was background noise. I worked hard anyway. School became my escape. While Daniel got attention for his charm and social life, I buried myself in books. I wasn't brilliant, but I was determined. I got into a decent university, worked 2 jobs to pay for it, and dreamed of building a life where I didn't have to constantly beg for approval. But my family didn't care. At every holiday dinner, it was the same. "So, Daniel, how's work going? Did you close that deal?" My dad would beam. And then, turning to me, "Emily, you still working at that place? What is it again?" Every time, it was like a knife twisting. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I was living on my own in a tiny apartment, working at a small marketing agency. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. Then everything changed. One rainy night, I was driving home after working late. My wipers fought against sheets of water, and visibility was awful. I slowed down, careful, but as I crossed an intersection, headlights came out of nowhere. A truck slammed into the side of my car with the force that felt like an explosion. The world spun, metal crunched, glass shattered, and then darkness. When I woke up, it was to the antiseptic sting of a hospital room. My body felt heavy, foreign. Tubes snaked into my arms, a monitor beeped beside me, and my chest ached with every breath. Panic surged, but it was smothered quickly by exhaustion. A nurse appeared, her face kind but professional. "Emily, you're awake. You've been through a serious accident. Multiple fractures, internal injuries. You're lucky to be alive." Her words blurred around me. Alive, but broken. I wanted to ask for someone, anyone. My mom, my dad, Daniel. But the words stuck in my throat. Surely they knew. Surely they'd come rushing the moment they heard. But the hours passed, then days, and no one came. The first time a nurse walked in holding flowers, my heart leapt until she placed them on the bed of the woman next to me. The door would creak open, and every time I thought, this is it. They're here. But it was always a doctor, a nurse, a stranger. My phone sat on the tray table, silent. No calls, no messages. Finally, after 3 days, I dialed my mother myself. She answered on the fourth ring. Emily, what's wrong? You know I don't like calls this late. Mom, I'm in the hospital. There was an accident. I almost died. There was a pause. For one breath, I thought I heard worry, but then her voice came, cool, detached. Oh, Emily, you really need to be more careful. Honestly, you're so accident-prone. Are you going to be okay? I don't know, I admitted. Could you come, please? Her sigh crackled down the line. Sweetheart, your father has been very tired from work, and we promised Daniel we'd help him with his house this week, maybe when things settle down. She ended the call with a half-hearted rest up, as though I had a cold, not shattered bones. I stared at the ceiling for a long time after that. My chest burned with more than physical pain. It was the confirmation of what I'd always suspected. I wasn't a priority. Not even close. But part of me still hoped. Maybe Rachel, my sister, would come. She was younger than me, spoiled, but sometimes sweet. Surely she'd at least text. But when I reached out, she answered with, "Hospitals creep me out. Besides, I've got finals. I can't just drop everything." Drop everything. Like my life wasn't already in pieces? Lying there helpless, the truth settled in like a heavy weight. I could be dying, and my family still wouldn't show up. The nurses became my only companions. One named Clara started bringing me small treats from the cafeteria. Another named Ben would sit with me at night when the loneliness got unbearable. They weren't obliged, but they cared, more than my own blood ever had. And that was both comforting and heartbreaking. As the weeks dragged on, I learned how long nights could stretch when you're waiting for people who will never come. I thought about every birthday where Daniel got the newest gadget and I got a sweater. Every Christmas where my gifts were an afterthought. Every graduation, every moment I hoped for pride and instead got indifference. And now, here I was, broken, stitched back together by strangers, abandoned by the very people who should have been there first. By the time I got discharged, I had changed. I wasn't naive anymore. I didn't expect love where there was none. I didn't beg for attention that would never come. And as I wheeled myself out of the hospital doors, I made a promise to myself. If I survived this, if I rebuilt myself piece by piece, I would never again give my family the power to hurt me with their absence. Because if they couldn't show up for me when I was at my weakest, they didn't deserve to be there when I became strong. When I first came home from the hospital, everything felt foreign. My apartment was exactly the same. The crooked picture frame in the hallway, the pile of unopened mail on the kitchen counter. But I wasn't. I couldn't climb the stairs without gasping. I couldn't shower without wrapping plastic around my cast. I couldn't even cook without risking collapsing from exhaustion. And still, my phone stayed silent. No, how are you? No, do you need groceries? No, do you need me to come over and help? Nothing. The silence wasn't just loud, it was deafening. It's strange what you remember when you're left completely alone. I remembered the smell of my dad's cologne when I was little, how safe it used to make me feel. I remembered the way my mom brushed my hair before school, carefully braiding it. I remembered the nights I helped Rachel with homework, even when she snapped at me. I remembered all of it, and I asked myself, were those moments ever real? Or were they just scraps I clung to, desperate for proof that I mattered? Because now, when I needed them most, they were gone. One night, the loneliness got so heavy I broke down. I sat on my couch, pain radiating through my body, tears sliding down my cheeks. I had tried to keep it together, tried to be strong, but the weight of abandonment crushed me. I called my mom again. She answered on the second ring. "Emily? What is it? You know I'm busy." I choked back a sob. "Mom, I'm not okay. I can't even make dinner. I can't do this by myself." There was a pause. Then irritation. "Emily, you're being dramatic. You're alive, aren't you? People have it much worse. You need to toughen up. Daniel's had a stressful promotion, and Rachel has finals. We all have problems." Her voice cut like a knife. "Mom," I whispered, "I almost died." "And you didn't. So stop dwelling. You're strong. You'll be fine." And then she hung up. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear long after the call ended, and I felt something break inside me. Not a bone this time, something deeper, something emotional. That was the night I decided I don't have a family. Not really. I stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped hoping. Instead, I leaned on the people who had actually been there. The nurses who checked in even after my discharge, the neighbor downstairs who offered to grab my groceries, the coworker who brought me meals without asking for anything in return. They weren't my blood, but they were my support. Recovery was brutal. Physical therapy 3 times a week, muscles screaming as I relearned how to walk properly, bruises fading into yellow patches, scars puckering across my skin. Every step reminded me of the crash, of the hospital, of the silence that followed. But with every painful step, I also reminded myself, you're doing this alone. And if you can survive this, you can survive anything. It was during those long months of recovery that something unexpected happened. My career started to take off. I had always been diligent at work, but after the accident, something inside me lit up. I poured everything into my job, every ounce of energy, every bit of creativity. If I didn't have family to cheer me on, I'd build a life where I didn't need them. And it worked. My campaign started gaining attention. Clients requested me by name. My boss pulled me aside one day and said, "Emily, you've got something. Keep this up and you won't just be good, you'll be great." It was the validation I'd been starving for all my life. Meanwhile, my family's lives carried on without me. I didn't hear from them for months. Not on my birthday, not at Christmas, not when I hit milestones in my recovery. But then, out of nowhere, they showed up. It was a Sunday afternoon, almost a year after the accident. I was working on a presentation when there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, my mom stood there with a smile too wide, my dad hovering awkwardly behind her, Rachel scrolling on her phone, and Daniel carrying a bottle of wine. "Emily!" my mom exclaimed like nothing had happened. "We thought we'd surprise you." Surprise didn't begin to cover it. I stepped aside, still stunned, and they swept in like they owned the place. They made themselves comfortable on my couch, complimented my furniture, opened the wine. And then, once the small talk faded, my dad cleared his throat. "So, Emily, we heard you've been doing really well at work." I blinked. "Yeah, I have. Things are going good." "That's wonderful," my mom chimed in, "because, well, Daniel's had a bit of a financial setback, and Rachel's tuition is a lot. We thought maybe you could help out, since you're doing so well." I stared at them, shock twisting into anger. Help out? Where were they when I was broken in a hospital bed, begging for a single visit? Where were they when I was struggling to feed myself, to shower, to heal? And now that I was finally standing on my own 2 feet, they wanted my money? I laughed. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't kind. It was sharp, bitter. You didn't visit me, I said, my voice shaking. Not once. I almost died, and you couldn't even bother to call more than once. And now that I've got something you want, suddenly you remember I exist? The room went silent. For the first time in my life, I watched their faces shift, not with shame, not with guilt, but with realization that I wasn't their doormat anymore. I didn't give them money that day. I didn't give them anything. But it was only the beginning. Because as I grew stronger, wealthier, and more independent, their desperation grew louder. And eventually, the same family that abandoned me when I was at my weakest would come to depend on me for their survival. And I'd make sure they never forgot how it felt when the roles were reversed. After that Sunday visit, something inside me shifted. For years, I'd been conditioned to crave their approval, to bend over backwards just to be noticed. But that day, when they asked for money after abandoning me, it snapped the last thread that tied me to them emotionally. For the first time, I felt free. I threw myself into my work like never before. Every late night at the office, every weekend spent drafting strategies, every presentation polished to perfection. It wasn't just about proving myself anymore. It was about building something that couldn't be taken away. And people noticed. A year after the accident, my boss called me into his office. His serious expression made me nervous, but then he slid a folder across the desk. "Emily," he said, "we're promoting you to Senior Account Director. You've earned it." I flipped through the folder, seeing the numbers in black and white. A raise, a corner office, a team under my leadership. I almost cried. Not because of the money, though it was more than I'd ever dreamed of making, but because it was validation. Pure, undeniable proof that I was capable, that I mattered. And I had done it without them. Of course, the news didn't stay quiet for long. Somehow, my family always seemed to know when things were going well for me. They didn't notice when I was struggling, but success? That traveled fast. The calls started trickling in. My mom first. "Emily, sweetheart, your dad and I are so proud of you. We knew you'd do well." I almost laughed. Proud? They hadn't been there when I needed help getting dressed after surgery, but now they were proud? Then Rachel called. "Hey sis," she said casually, as if we hadn't gone months without speaking. "So, tuition is insane this semester. Do you think you could?" I cut her off. "No, Rachel, I can't." She huffed. "You don't have to be selfish. We're family." Family. That word was losing all meaning. And Daniel wasn't far behind. "Hey, Em," he said, using the nickname he only pulled out when he wanted something. "My car's been giving me trouble. I was wondering if—" I didn't let him finish either. "No, Daniel, buy your own car." His tone turned sharp. "Wow, you think you're better than us now, just because you got a promotion?" "No," I said, my voice cold. "I know I'm better than the version of me who kept letting you all walk all over her. That girl's gone." And I hung up. But the thing about boundaries is, once you set them, people either adjust or they push harder. My family, they pushed harder. The visits became more frequent. My mom dropping off cookies just to say hi. My dad stopping because he was in the neighborhood. Rachel calling in tears about her rent. Daniel hinting about family investments. I kept my walls up, polite but firm. I gave them nothing more than words. And with every no, I felt stronger. Meanwhile, my career exploded. I wasn't just good at my job, I was great. Clients wanted me, not just my company. My name was being whispered in rooms I'd never dreamed of entering. And then came the opportunity of a lifetime, leading a global campaign for a tech giant, the kind of project that could change a career forever. I worked day and night, pouring everything into it. And when it launched, it went viral. My face was on industry magazines. I was invited to conferences, job offers started flooding in, and then came the money. Real money. Enough to pay off debts, buy property, invest, enough to create security that no one could take away. I remember standing in the middle of my brand new condo one night, staring at the city lights and thinking, this is mine. I built this, alone. And it felt damn good. Of course, my family noticed. My mom called again, her tone syrupy sweet. Emily, darling, we should all celebrate your success together. Maybe a family dinner. You could take us somewhere nice? I almost choked on the irony. She wanted me to take them out to dinner. The same people who couldn't even drive to the hospital to sit by my bed now wanted me to wine and dine them like honored bests. I declined. That's when the guilt-tripping started. Emily, you're being cruel, my mom said. We're your family. You can't just cut us out. You cut me out first. Silence, then a sharp inhale. That's not fair. But it was fair. It was the fairest truth I'd ever spoken. Months passed, and the gap between us widened. But instead of mourning it, I thrived in it. I traveled, I networked, I built friendships that felt like family. People who celebrated me not because of what I could give them, but because of who I was. The gala was a turning point. After that night, the masks slipped. At first, my family tried to maintain the charade. Friendly calls, casual visits, just checking in, texts. But slowly, the cracks started showing. Rachel called one night in tears. Emily, I don't know what to do. My landlord says he's evicting me if I don't pay the full rent by Friday. I asked her, Rachel, what happened to your job at the boutique? A pause, then a sigh. I quit. It was too stressful, but I'm gonna start a YouTube channel and I know it'll blow up. I just need a little help in the meantime. I almost laughed. She wanted me to bankroll her fantasy. I'm sorry, Rachel, I can't do that. Her voice turned cold instantly. Wow, you really don't care about family anymore, do you? Click. She hung up. A week later, Daniel showed up at my condo unannounced. He was fidgeting, sweaty, clearly desperate. He said, avoiding my eyes. I need a loan, just a small one. A few thousand. For what? I asked. He hesitated, then blurted out, gambling debt. But I swear I can pay it back. Just one more chance. I stared at him. This was the same brother who once told me I was selfish for not buying him a car. And now he wanted me to rescue him from his own bad choices? No, I said firmly. His face twisted with anger. You think you're better than me, sitting in your fancy condo while your own brother suffers? No, Daniel, I replied, quietly. I just think I'm smarter than to throw money into a fire. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard it rattled the frame. But the biggest shock came a month later, when my parents called. My mom's voice was shaky. Emily, your father and we're in trouble. The mortgage is months behind. We might lose the house. I went silent. The house. The same house where I had begged for attention only to be ignored. The same house they refused to leave to visit me in the hospital. The same house where they smiled and praised my siblings while I faded into the background. Now they wanted me to save it. Emily, my mom pressed. Sweetheart, you have the means now. We know you do. Please, help us. I closed my eyes. A swirl of emotions hit me. Anger, sadness, disbelief. And beneath it all, a twisted sense of justice. They hadn't shown up when I needed them most, and now when they needed me, I had all the power. I'll think about it, I finally said, and hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Part of me wanted to slam the door forever, to remind them of every lonely hospital night, every tear shed into a pillow, every desperate wish that they'd care. But another part of me, the part that still remembered what it felt like to crave their love, hesitated. Was I really capable of letting them sink completely? The battle raged in my head. Meanwhile, life outside of family was better than ever. My career continued to soar. I was invited to lead a major expansion overseas. My salary doubled again. I invested wisely, building a portfolio that grew every month. I was living the kind of life I'd once only dreamed of, and the contrast with my family's collapse couldn't have been sharper. The begging escalated. Rachel sent me long texts about how she was on the verge of homelessness. Daniel left voicemails about guys who were going to break his legs if he didn't pay. My parents wrote heartfelt emails about losing the home where we raised you. And every time, I felt that tug in my chest, but I held firm. Until one Sunday afternoon when I drove past their house out of curiosity. The once pristine lawn was overgrown, the shutters hung crooked, the driveway was empty. It was like looking at a ghost of my childhood, and standing on the porch was my mother, hunched and small, watching me from afar as I drove by. The image haunted me. The next day, I made a decision. I wouldn't give them money. Not handouts, not bailouts. But I would give them something else, a lesson. I called my parents and told them to meet me at a coffee shop. They arrived looking tired, defeated. I'll help you, I said simply. Their faces lit up with relief. But not the way you think. Confusion replaced relief. What do you mean? My dad asked. I'll buy the house, outright. You'll stay there. But from now on, you pay me rent. Their jaws dropped. You can't be serious, my mom whispered. I am, I said firmly. I'll save your home, but I won't save you from responsibility. Silence stretched between us. My dad's face turned red with anger, while my mom's eyes welled with tears. That's humiliating, she said. No, I corrected gently. Humiliating was being left alone in a hospital bed while my family pretended I didn't exist. This is fair. They argued, they begged, they pleaded, but in the end, they agreed. They had no choice. I signed the papers within weeks. The house was mine. And suddenly, the power balance shifted completely. The same parents who once ignored me now mailed checks to me every month. The same brother and sister who mocked me for being weak now watched as I held their safety net in my hands. It was surreal, and in a strange way, satisfying. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Because when people are desperate, they don't stop at begging. And soon enough, my family would try to claw back not just my money, but my success, my peace, even my identity. And when that day came, I'd have to decide, how far was I willing to go to protect the life I'd built? The first rent check arrived in a plain white envelope. No note, no greeting, just numbers scrawled on the corner, and a shaky signature from my dad. I held it in my hands for a long time, not because I needed the money. By then, my income far outstripped what they were sending, but because it symbolized something bigger. The roles had flipped. I wasn't the weak one anymore. I wasn't the ignored daughter sitting quietly in the corner. I wasn't the forgotten patient waiting alone in a sterile hospital bed. I was the one holding the cards now, and they knew it. At first, my family played along. They paid on time, kept communications civil, even invited me over once or twice. But underneath the politeness, there was resentment. I could feel it in the way my dad avoided my eyes, in the way my mom's smile faltered when she handed me rent, in the way Rachel muttered under her breath about being treated like a tenant by your own sister. Daniel didn't bother hiding it. One evening, after I ran into him in the driveway, he spat the words at me. "You think you won, don't you? You think we're beneath you now?" I didn't flinch. "No, Daniel, I don't think it. I know it, because when I was beneath you, you all made sure I stayed there. Now the tables have turned." His face flushed, his fists clenched, but he said nothing else. Months passed. Their bitterness grew, and so did their desperation. Rachel called again, this time with a softer tone. "Emily, I'm sorry for everything, for not visiting you, for not being there. I was selfish, but please help me. I'm drowning in debt. Just a little money to start over." For a second, my heart wavered. She sounded so sincere. But then I remembered all the times she had laughed at me, dismissed me, begged only when she wanted something. I sighed. "Rachel, I don't doubt you're sorry, but you're sorry for your situation, not for what you did. And I can't fix that for you." She cried, cursed, then hung up. My parents tried a different approach. They invited me to dinner, something they hadn't done in years. The table was set perfectly, my mom had made my favorite dish, and for a brief moment, it almost felt like family again. Until my dad cleared his throat. "Emily, my mom and I have been talking. We think it would be best if you signed the house back over to us. It's humiliating living this way." I set down my fork. Humiliating? My voice shook, not with fear, but with anger. "Do you know what was humiliating, Dad? Lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, crying myself to sleep because my own family didn't care enough to visit? That was humiliating. This is justice." He reddened, stammered, then fell silent. Dinner ended shortly after that. They paid rent for another 6 months. Then slowly, the payments stopped. First it was a week late, then 2, then a month. Excuses piled up. Bank error, unexpected expenses. We'll catch up next time. But they never did. When I confronted them, my dad snapped. "You can't really expect us to keep paying you like this. We're your parents." I met his glare steadily. "Parents? Parents take care of their children. Parents show up when their kids are in pain. Parents don't vanish when it matters most. You stopped being parents the day you left me alone in that hospital bed. Silence fell. My mom started to cry. My dad muttered something about ungrateful. And then I said the words I never thought I'd have the strength to say. You have 30 days. Pay up or move out. The fallout was explosive. Rachel accused me of destroying the family. Daniel called me heartless. My mom begged. My dad threatened. But I didn't budge. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bending to their guilt or their anger. I wasn't the forgotten child chasing scraps of affection. I was the woman who had built her own life, her own success, her own worth. And I was done being used. 30 days came and went. When the deadline hit, I showed up with official papers. My parents, pale and defeated, handed me the keys. They moved into a small rental across town, stripped of the house they'd once lorded over me. Daniel disappeared for weeks. Rachel posted dramatic sob stories online about her evil sister. And me? I walked through the empty halls of that house, my footsteps echoing against the walls. Memories flooded back. Christmas mornings where my brother got expensive gifts while I got socks. Family dinners where my achievements were ignored. Nights crying into my pillow. But instead of sadness, I felt something new. Closure. I didn't keep the house. I sold it, took the money, invested it, and never looked back. And when word got around that I'd made a massive profit, my phone lit up again. Texts, calls, emails, begging. Emily, we're struggling. Can't you share just a little? Emily, you've got more than enough. We're your family. Emily, don't you have any heart left? I ignored them all because the truth was clear. They didn't want me. They wanted what I could give them, and I was done giving. Today, my life looks nothing like the girl they used to dismiss. I own multiple properties, I travel, I surround myself with people who show up, not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. And my family? They still send the occasional plea, but I don't answer. Because when I needed them most, they left me with nothing. And now that I have everything, they get nothing.